Welcome everyone to this GT Launch and Learn, and thank you for joining us. I think we're on right now. So again, welcome everyone to this GT Launch and Learn, and thank you for joining us. I know there are some folks from different parts of the world, so if this is not a lunch, probably it's a breakfast probably. Still feel very welcome. My name is Rodrigo, and I will be your host for today's webinar, which features the great University of Nottingham. University of Nottingham will present a live demonstration and Q&A on their new PeopleSoft Campus Solutions annual curriculum review. And they'll share their hands-on experience on the impact of GT eForms in transforming curriculum management in a higher education setting. So this is what we're going to see today. And for those of you who don't know what is this all about, I'm representing Aptio, who is a proud co-host of these sessions alongside our friends and business partners for more than 20 years. It's Gideon Taylor, that's the name GT that it comes from. The creators of the powerful GT eForms tools that are being used by hundreds of schools worldwide to configure custom PeopleSoft self-service applications for any business processes. And Aptio, we are trusted Gideon Taylor partners, Oracle partners as well, supporting digital transformation for PeopleSoft and Oracle customers, campus solutions across Europe. So welcome everyone. Before I introduce today's speakers, please, I'd like to take a little bit of housekeeping. We always enjoy having these sessions be interactive. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. Our friends from Gideon Taylor are here with us to help us monitor the chat for any questions that you may have. And we will try to respond as quickly as possible. At the end, we will also have some time for answer those questions. And please remember that following the webinar, you will receive a link to the recording. Gideon Taylor hosts these Launch and Learn webinars each month. We hope that you'll join us for the upcoming sessions, and you can find any past webinar recordings on Gideon Taylor's website and on their YouTube channel. So let's kick things off. How did the University of Nottingham transform a time-consuming, error-prone curriculum update process into a streamlined, compliant, and efficient workflow? And what can we learn from their journey? I'm excited to introduce you Paul Ellis, a Senior Solution Architect, and Leslie Dingley, Head of Curriculum for Registry and Academic Affairs at the University of Nottingham, who will walk us through their innovative PeopleSoft-based solution. So Paul, please, the floor is all yours.
It's going to be Leslie who's going to be sharing the screen.
Can you see it?
Because I can't be trusted. Yes, I can. We can see it, Leslie.
Just let me know if the slides go on, because I know there's a bit of issue with those. So
here we go.
We can see them, yes.
Gone to, oh yeah. So we'll give you a brief about the University of Nottingham, how we work, why we changed, and what we did, and some bits around the edges, talk around Gideon Taylor eForms while we implemented it. We'll also touch upon how we leveraged Kibana, now Oracle Open Search, to show Gideon Taylor fields for reporting purposes as well. So we'll talk through all those sorts of aspects, and hopefully it'll be useful for everyone on the call. I think this is you, Leslie.
Oh, is it? Oh gosh. Okay, right. So just a few. Thanks for that. A few facts about the University of Nottingham. For anybody that doesn't know, we were founded as Nottingham College in 1881 and granted university status in 1948. And there's just a little bit of information about some of the rankings that we've had over the years.
Cool. And so at the University of Nottingham, we've got 3 campuses. One in UK, Nottingham, obviously. We've got a campus in Malaysia, which is not too far out of Kuala Lumpur, which is a great night out. And we've also got one in Ningbo, China as well. And both those campuses are growing year on year. So it's really nice to, if anyone ever gets to go visit, there are really cool places to go visit both China and Malaysia campuses for the University of Nottingham. But yeah, we've got quite a large student base and a lot of academics at each of these campuses, and each campus manages its own curriculum as well. Next slide. So just to a bit of an icebreaker, I'll tell you some fun facts about the University of Nottingham, and hopefully Leslie can as well.
So I changed them yesterday slightly.
Yeah.
Surprise.
That's good.
Get your toes.
Yeah. So, right. So one fact about Gandalf the Grey was so named after a great aunt of J.R. Tolkien, who grew up in Nottingham. Not Tolkien, but his aunt lived in Nottingham. Sorry, and I don't know why. Maybe just could shed a beard or whatnot. But another fun fact about Nottingham is we are famous for Robin Hood as well, even though it's a mythical character. But Nottingham folk always believe that he was real, although the people from Derby on the call may disagree. But now I'll have to hand over to Leslie for the other fun facts because she changed the slide.
So Radcliffe Road, West Bridgeford, that was the first road in the world that actually had tarmac on it, which is not far from where I am right now. The atomic clock was invented in Nottingham by a graduate of the University of Nottingham. And Paul McCartney and Wings, they had their first concert in the Student Union halls. Is that what they're called? Student Union bar at the University of Nottingham. And there's actually a plaque outside the University of Nottingham to commemorate that. So that serves you right for not being here yesterday for that one.
I didn't know about that, too fair.
Surprise.
Cool. So our implementation, we're on Campus Solutions 9.2. We're about to go live with PUM 34 on Saturday. We're on Tools 860. We should be doing another Tools upgrade later this year. I'd like to jump to 862, although a few folks will be scared of that, but I think we'll just go for it. We're on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. That's where we're hosted. We use Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Data Integrator to integrate to our operational data store, which is like in-house data lake. So we send a lot of data over there. For reporting purposes. We use Oracle Cloud Object Storage for our student attachments, so our GT attachments are also hooked into that. We leverage the PeopleSoft test framework as well to automate testing, and we've automated a lot of the GT eForms that we've implemented using that test framework, so that when we apply upgrades, we can just run those automation tests and saves a lot of hours to manually run stuff. We have Elasticsearch and Kibana, although that's not what it's called anymore. It's Oracle OpenSearch. We have not applied that update yet, but we will be doing that later this year. We use GT eForms, but I'm guessing everyone knows that. That's why you're here. And we also have OBI, PeopleSoft CRM, which I'm trying to get rid of, hopefully later this year, and a number of different frameworks as well that we leverage from folks like CY2 and such as well. Okay, so a bit about the department we work in. We're called ESIT, which is basically Education Administration Continuous Improvement Team, which is a bit of a mouthful, but we're a multidisciplined team with various different roles pulled from different areas of the university, and we focus on enhancing the university systems around campus solutions and business processes, and making the heart of the student and trying to enhance the student journey as overall, and trying to make it as streamlined as possible. And we leverage agile methodologies in terms of our implementation on different projects within Campus Solutions, which we'll touch upon within this presentation.
So annually we do a curriculum review and refresh. In the UK we're governed by CMA, which is the Competition and Markets Authority, and they decide what information is deemed material for students. So that's what information they need to know about how to make an informed decision about where and what to study. So a lot of our dates are governed by that. And this is just an overview to give you an idea. So we talk about material and non-material information. So non-material information, we've got a much bigger lead in as to when we can review that. So if we're looking at the review and refresh period for 2025-26, the deadline for submission is the 22nd of November for non-material information, and all these dates are to fall in line with when information is published. So we publish the undergraduate prospectus in March 25. The course catalogue, so the online course catalogue, which takes all the information from Campus Solution, is published on the 1st of April, so that was earlier in the week. And then the online prospectus for postgraduate tour is published in July. So all of our information is reviewed around those dates ahead of when we start making offers for students who commence in 26-27. And all this information is needed to be in line so that the timetabling team can take their download of the information for the right year. So who's involved in our process? There's lots of people involved. Module conveners, obviously it's their modules, so they're looking at reviewing the data that they have. Program directors, we've got quite a complex curriculum and lots of our modules sits in lots of programs. Our big hitter is a life science module that sits in 57 different programs as an example. Programs team, so that's the administrative team supporting the academics. They have a role, as do school administrators. My team, the curriculum approvals and advisory team. FAPVC, so they have a role to play in ensuring that as a faculty all the information is correct, and then school learning and teaching committees all have a role. So what did we used to do? I don't know what processes you all have at your universities, but we've tried absolutely everything. We have had notes on scrap pieces of paper. We introduced an 0365 form. We've had module specifications with track changes. Sometimes they come back with comments. It didn't matter, no matter what we did, academics absolutely hate it. Some examples here of the types of documents that we get back. It's really difficult sometimes to understand and interpret what somebody's telling you with all of these. So obviously the process is quite prone for errors. The latest version that we had was we take module specifications, we physically, individually download copies of the module spec from campus. We then save them, upload them to a SharePoint site so that academics can access them. All the changes then would need to be interpreted. So as I say, trying to understand what an academic is trying to tell you, and then individually we would have to manually input all of these changes into Campus Solutions. After we've entered them all in within a very tight time frame, academics would then check to ensure that what we'd actually put into Campus is what they'd requested. So it was a big old process. Just to give you an idea of the size of that, and I've no idea why that slide slid up, by the way. Very good, but I don't know how. We have 2,859 active programs at Nottingham and 5,806 active modules. The review and refresh period for us to input these changes into Campus happens over a 16-week period. So we used to give academics between around about June and November to check their curriculum, to go through it all, to make the changes, to go through an approval at school and faculty level and submit them to us. So looking at the numbers of administrative support, and this is just administrative, this isn't including any academic time, over the different faculties, that process takes 27.65 FTE effort or it did take to do that process. So it's a huge amount of work over a very short period of time. So we then came up with a problem statement, which is curriculum review and refresh is highly time consuming for all stakeholders. It necessitates extensive manual inputting of data, which is both labour intensive and prone to discrepancies and human error, and requires meticulous checking to ensure accuracy and consistency. Inefficiency delays the implementation of updated curricula and impacts the overall quality and effectiveness of educational programmes. It also did nothing for administrative academic relations, because there was always a lot of angst over the changes, particularly when they found things that were wrong because we'd misinterpreted it. So it was a huge problem.
That's now back over to me. Okay, so just to talk through a few of our design principles that we set when we started eSIT. We want to follow a configuration first mindset moving forward, because configuration is much easier to manage and much easier to maintain on an ongoing basis. There is always need for development, I think, within Campus Solutions, but when we do have to develop, we only develop to enable configuration. we try to avoid building large bespoke frameworks ourselves because it's unwieldy and very difficult to manage in the future on an ongoing basis, especially when there's a lot of suppliers out there that have bespoke bolt-on frameworks themselves that you can leverage, GT being one of them. We want to avoid customizations, and we tend to remove them where we can during upgrades, because it makes it a lot easier to apply upgrades, and we don't want to spend all our time applying upgrades. We instead want to deliver benefits and to the university instead. We want to make use of delivered tools and frameworks, and we'll touch upon that within this session. We want to make use of automation where we can. Following our agile method, we want to iterate and then iterate again. So try and deliver changes quickly and in sort of small bursts so that we can keep delivering benefits to the university. We'd like to collaborate with wider teams and external partners such as GT, for example, or also other institutions as well. We like sharing best practice, and we tend to try and keep it simple as well, even though sometimes it's very difficult to, but that is one of our main aims. So with the problem statement Leslie showed, we need to think about, do we buy something new or build something ourselves? So we need to think about what problem we wanted to solve. We need to think, well, if we did need to buy some new software, why do we want to buy that? What would it get us, for example? What do the users need as well was a really important thing. Cost is quite an important thing as well, whether to build or buy. The resources that you have as well, it's important to understand that. Infrastructure requirements as well. Are there any hidden costs as well with buying new software? So it's important to understand this and analyze the problem statement and just investigate what are our particular options. So we knew we wanted to do something in campus solutions. We knew we didn't want to buy a new curriculum management solution, although we did investigate that for some time, but we wanted to look at something within campus solutions because that's the source of truth for our curriculum data. So after doing some investigation, we looked at the delivered form builder tool. That was one option we could use within campus solutions, but upon investigating that, I soon realized it wasn't trying to put this polite, it wasn't very good. It wasn't very configurable. You needed a lot extensive development. I think there's a max number of fields you can use within form builder as well. If I recall, that might have changed now. But yeah, that wasn't going to work for us. We could have developed a custom framework ourselves. Okay, but that again is against one of our design principles, and it would have been enormous to develop this thing in a custom method, and it would have taken extensive testing. And the third option was build using the GT eForms, which we recently purchased just prior to starting this project. So obviously the option we decided to go with was build it using GT eForms, and I would give you an overview of what GT eForms is, but I think I'll hand over to Scott for this one because he can do a better job than me.
Paul, I appreciate that. And I apologize for the bad lighting. Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Anton. I manage business development with Gideon Taylor. And on behalf of our team, I do want to say thank you very much to Leslie and Paul for this session this afternoon. So GT eForms has been around for over 20 years. And our primary vision with regards to the industry is helping organizations get more value out of their PeopleSoft systems and Oracle and others. But for the sake of our conversation today, it's really driving more functionality within the PeopleSoft applications, allowing you to do more with PeopleSoft than what Oracle delivers. And there's some wonderful functionality built into the delivered PeopleSoft and People Tools. But where those delivered applications and delivered functionality don't fit with your organization, GT eForms is an awesome tool to empower you to build out these custom solutions. So those are some screenshots over on the left-hand side that show some solutions that have been built out with GT eForms. Some of those might be campus solutions, some of those might be HCM, some of those might be finance. And really the strength of GT eForms is in its configurability. Being able to configure pre-population and dynamic defaulting of data, being able to configure how pages and fields and segments hide or display based on who's using it, based on the rules of your process, how it routes to individuals along the approval process, under what conditions. And then one of the things that we are most excited about this year is introducing configurable component interfaces. So now business analysts can not only build out these forms and define the logic and define the workflow, but also set up how the data passes from the form to automatically update your PeopleSoft records. So a lot of really powerful thing. The other thing I'll mention is the logo up at the top that signifies that GT eForms is the only form building tool that's certified by Oracle. Really good. That being said, Paul, I'll hand it back over to you. Thanks.
Okay, cool. Right, so over the next few slides, I'm going to just be briefly talking about user experience, change management, and mentoring, because I think these are quite important for this particular project. Okay, so in our team within ESIT, as I said, we pull resources from different areas of the university. We have a service design lead working for ESIT, and his main background was user experience. I'll just check if he's on the call. Actually, I won't throw him under the bus. Can't see his name now. Right, Mike Gardner. But yeah, he was excellent during this implementation, and he changed the way we thought about design. Back in the day, I say back in the day, a few years ago, we used to go and speak to the customer, talk about what they want, then you'd write down a functional design document, you'd hand that to a developer who would develop something, they'd give it back to you, you'd test everything was okay, and then you give it to the customer that requested it, and then the customer looks at it and it's nothing like what they imagined it was going to be. But Mike helped us rethink this sort of approach. We wanted to take more of a UX and UI design sort of lead, and UX is more like interaction design, wireframes, which we'll talk about in a moment, user research scenarios, thinking about that sort of thing, and the user interface is more the visual design, the colors, graphics, layouts, and typography, and that sort of thing of what the user actually sees. Okay, so we need to think about three different elements in terms of UX. So empathize and define. So it's understanding what the user needs is a key aspect of delivering a solution, but you need to also understand the possibilities of the technology. Now, Campus Solutions is not, it's not like building a website, so you are limited to a certain extent, and you've got business goals, but UX is great. UX is at that intersection of those three different sorts of elements. Okay, so the design thinking approach, essentially, you need to learn about the audience, to empathize with them, speak with the users, and in this sort of scenario, speaking with the academics, and Leslie helped us arrange different workshops with the academics to talk about what they see as a really good process. They asked a lot of sharp and key questions and prodded and poked to find out what was the specific needs of their different schools and faculties. They also brainstormed ideas and created solutions on like whiteboards and wireframes, just to talk through what the solution could look like and whether that would work for them. They'd build further prototypes as well, and when we built prototypes within the system, you would go and demo that to our different users as well to get feedback, and then feed that back through the process and make changes as and when needed. So it's a different sort of approach to just writing a spec, handing that to someone to build, and handing it back to the user. It's sort of like a co-design, sort of co-build sort of methodology. Okay, so co-design is really, really important, I think, and I thought it was all nonsense to begin with, but after working through a number of projects like this and along with Mike, I realised that it is essential, and I think it's a brilliant way to work now. And sketching different drawings of how things should work, different flow diagrams, Miro is a fantastic tool for that sort of thing, and you can take the users on that journey with you, and it empowers them and involves them in the particular project that you're working on, and it's a much more co-design led sort of project, and it's a much more rewarding way to work, and I think the outcomes are always a lot better. And GT is fantastic for this sort of co-design methodology. Okay, we also had change managers on this particular project, which was really useful as well, because I see a lot of the team as the builders, the people behind the scenes, building forms, building the comms and reporting and that sort of thing. But obviously we don't want to say, okay, here you go and run with it. Now it's live, off you go. There's a lot of change management needed in the background, a lot of planning, and establishing solid foundations with different users, and sending out communications, and always interacting with the user base to keep them updated on where we were with the project, when it's going live, and that sort of thing. Also implementing methods for users to raise issues with them once the solution was live and that sort of thing. So we didn't want users just to go and raise a service desk ticket. We wanted to give them a point to contact straight away. And yeah, the change management around this project was really, really good. And I think it enabled a successful delivery as well. It's really, really important, change management. Mentoring as well, I think was really, really important for this piece of work. As I briefly said earlier, we'd only just got GT framework, GT eForms before we started this, and I think we had only delivered one form as well, which I built, which only had a handful of fields on. This form is going to need a much larger amount of fields and a lot more complicated logic than the original one I built. So we needed some mentoring from Gideon Taylor, which we leveraged as well, and that enhanced our design quality, accelerated our skill development. We really did upskill during the mentoring process. It reduced errors as well. If we found an issue that we could see happening, we just get on the call with our mentor, and they talk through the issue and how to fix it. It boosted confidence and collaboration as well. It was really, really, really rewarding. And once we were knowledgeable, now following those mentoring sessions, we could pass that on to different members of our team to share that sort of knowledge. So mentoring a real key aspect of this piece of work. So in terms of a high level approach to the piece, we knew we wanted to use the GT framework to build the forms and approval workflow. We knew we wanted to work with Gideon Taylor to help mentor us to build those forms. We also knew we wanted to make use of other delivered frameworks, such as Kibana or Oracle OpenSearch now, and ComGen as well. So we knew that because GT eForms is held within our Campus Solutions database, we can leverage other frameworks that are delivered with Campus Solutions. As I touched upon earlier, we wanted to put UX and change management at the forefront of our design thinking, and we definitely wanted to deliver in an agile way. Okay, so in terms of our design, so GT recommend a 3-pass approach, and I'll talk about the other passes in a moment. But we slotted in this design pass in front of that, and this is where we do that co-design with our user base, and we use Miro for this sort of thing. And we essentially, and what Mike has done, our service design lead, is created a template in Miro where we can start plugging in. This template in Miro is just like a blank GT eForm that you could bring in different fields, so you can essentially mock up a form there and then in Miro, and you can work with users during this. So, oh, I don't like that field there, I think that needs to be dropped further down, that sort of thing. No, I'd like that as a checkbox or a drop down, I'd like a hyperlink in this paragraph and that sort of thing. So you can talk through, you can do that design alongside the users. And I thought this is a really useful method to move forward with. And as I said, it brought the academics along on that design sort of journey with us, and it was really important because it got their buy-in as well. But yeah, Miro is an excellent tool for this sort of thing. So moving on to the different passes. So official pass 1 is where you sort of start laying the foundations for your form. So that's like the general form setup, task titles, segments, fields, attachment functions, and any action items. So it's sort of like building out the form with like course title, for example, or course description, that sort of thing. Not populating the data yet, but just building out the template, laying the foundations, so that once you finish that pass, you can take that to Leslie, for example, just to talk through. This is how it looks like on the form itself. We haven't populated the data yet, but do you have any feedback as to where the titles of the different segments fit, or do you want to move any fields around? So we always do that. We always go back to the users after each pass to talk through what we've built, to get feedback. And if there's any feedback, we can apply those changes and re-show them again, just following our sort of agile sort of methodology. Pass 2 is where you start to populate those different records and fields within the form. You can add the search records as well, which I'll show you in our demonstration later on. Add any show logic. So it's like, for example, if a user checked a box, for example, you don't want a certain section to display, that's where you add that sort of logic. Field logic as well, similar to the segment logic. You can show and hide fields or populate fields automatically based on other fields being selected. You can add attachment logic in path 2, action items, form edits, and data pool joins. Data pools are really important. So for example, you could you have, for this form, we leveraged a lot of data from the course catalog. So you can, in the data pool, that's where you can either bring in that record of the course catalog and then use fields from that record in your form. So the data pool is where you add that sort of thing in, or you can also build a query as well and add that to the data pool, and then you can use any field within a query in your form automatically. So that data pools are really important. And then again, once we've finished path 2 and we should have more of a completed form, we take that back to our users, Leslie, to get feedback on, make any changes, take that back. And once we're fully happy with path 2, we move on to path 3, which is where we're adding the finishing touches to our house. So that's where we start adding the workflow configuration. So once a form's submitted, where does it go? Where does it go after that? Notification configuration. So when a user submits a form, we want them to receive an email, or if a form gets recycled, we want them to receive an email. Any security requirements. So for example, we don't want all users to be able to see the form. We can add any other tasks. And path 3 is where we build the component interface, the CI. So once the form is submitted, we essentially want the course catalog to update automatically, and that's where you start plugging that aspect in. When we built this form, the CI was that's why we needed a development resource to build that certain side of it. But I know with the future release of GT upgrade, the CI is also completely configurable as well, which I'm not yet had to play around with yet, but hopefully in the coming weeks we'll have a go, and then validate the form. And again, we show our user community what path 3 looks like, get feedback, make changes. Once we're completely happy with path 3, that's when we move that into testing. And yet, we always need to consider agile during these sorts of implementations. It increases innovation, problem solving. We work together. We had daily stand-ups, which is really important. We sought feedback from various different users. We saw it boosted morale and motivation. It increased productivity. Our regular calls with GT mentoring during this period really helped as well. It built stronger working relationships. I think the team that worked on this are still quite close now, and we still have a good few jokes now and again. People were adaptable and flexible, and yeah, and I think it just made a better outcome for our customer base due to our working together. I think
So,
this is
it's mine. So the new process, we didn't, I don't know I've put new process there, we didn't change the process at all. And we were very, very clear when we went out to talk to schools and academics about this. It's not a new process. It is just a new way of collating the information. So within the GTE form, module conveners request a change. So they do that via the GTE form. They see their form in their Nottingham hub. There's a tile for them. They can search on it. So any that they are a module convener, they see. Once they submit a change, so they've gone through the form, made all the changes and click submit, automatically the system now sends an email notification to any course director that module sits within. Historically, this has never happened. So we've always had huge problems where course directors don't know that various people have borrowed their modules and used them within their programs. And then when a change is made, for example, quite a big change like changing the semester it's taught, that causes huge problems. We don't normally find out until a student registers or tries to register on the module that the world falls apart. So having this notification at this point automatically from the system that just basically gives them a little nudge to say, this module that's in your program, it's had a change. You might want to look at what that is and make sure it still works for your program. Once that's happened, the module is sent to the school, and so schools and faculties were asked to identify people within these various roles. So there are a whole heap of people that were school approvers. The school approver could then look at the form highlighted just what had been changed, so it was very easy for them to look and see within that what had been changed. They didn't have to try and identify that themselves. They could approve the change, so exactly as it was, click approve and send it on its way. They could reject it, so they could send it back to the module convener, and there is ability for them to write why they were rejecting it. They could amend it themselves. So if there was something that school level that every module needed, the school approvers could go in and make that change and then approve it. Once that had been approved by the school, the same thing, it would go to the faculty. So this is where our faculty associate pro vice chancellors were involved, and they would look at each of the forms. And again, they had the option of approve, reject and amend. Then it came to the CAT team, my curriculum team, to approve. We don't approve it. Approve isn't the right word. We just check to ensure that the changes fit within quality manual regulations. And again, we have the option within our approval to reject, to change it, or to approve it. And once we approved it, the changes then automatically went into Campus Solutions. So this is your demo, Paul.
Okay, cool. Yeah, right. So this is our test environment, so it might be a bit slow. So academics would click on the tile, and then they would essentially search, click search, and then they would be displayed with the modules that they needed to change. That view is specific to school administrators or module conveners, the academics. So then they click into their particular module, and then essentially it's pulling data from the course catalog and other related tables, and then this is where they can make specific changes as well. So here we can just change this. You can see I used this for a hug demo as well, and the users can then select next to go through the different parts of the form. And again, this is pulling in all different sorts of data from the course catalog. We've built a number of CAFs on the course catalog as well, and it's pulling data from that, and also some custom fields that were built many years ago that we still haven't got rid of. And so that was sort of like a field logic there that we wanted to display a field if they selected yes. Yeah, you can see it's quite a large form to get through. And they have the ability to save at any point, and then they can come back to the form if need be. We've added requisites in there as well. And there we go. And with GT as well, there might be some fields on there that we wanted to capture that we don't hold within Campus Solutions. So we just made fields within the framework themselves, because within the framework you can make GT fields, which then can be used for reporting and into CI. But essentially, an academic has submitted that form, and now it goes for the first approval, which is the, I know you just said it, Leslie, school approval. So the school approvers get notified, well, they don't get notified, they have committees, and they go have a look to see which forms are awaiting approval. So they come in here. Now we added logic on the approval step to bring it all into one single page, so they didn't have to flip through the different pages. Also, we can highlight the fields that have changed, so it should make it a lot easier for them to go and approve. So it just means they don't have to keep tracking back and forth between old versions and new versions. And then once they approve, it goes to the next level of approval, which is the faculty. And again, they have committees, and they would they have their own search view as well. So they would be able to go in and also view the item. And it's the same sort of view. They can see where the form is in the different approval steps as well. Okay, so everyone clicks on the same tile. It's just the view is behind that approve link is what controls what people can see. Okay, there we go. And again, this is a single page again for the users, well, so they can check. Very straightforward. No more Word documents flying around on emails with track changes, all held within the Campus Solutions database. Yeah, and then they can approve or reject, or they can also make amendments if needs be as well at different steps, but that's completely configurable. You don't have to allow users to be able to change fields within the approval steps. Okay, so that's from the academic submitting to the school, and then it goes to the faculty, and the next step is Leslie's team, which is the curriculum approval. Now, if I recall, we shouldn't be going into... I think you can move on to the next slide for this one now, Leslie. Okay, cool. So as I touched on before, we leverage Kibana, which is now Oracle OpenSearch, for this, because the different levels of approval, they have committees, and they want to see a list of essentially what they wanted to approve, and like broken down by a school, by a faculty, by a level, via academic career and that sort of thing. They wanted to chop and change the data so they can like break it down to say, on Tuesday we're going to look at all year 2 modules, on Wednesday year 3 modules, and that sort of thing. So for reporting, again, following Mike's methodology, we built mock-ups and did some co-designing with the stakeholders to understand what a report would look like for them. And yes, we use Kibana, but that's now Oracle OpenSearch for this sort of thing. Yes, and basically what you do is you build a query or an index, and you send that to a separate server which sits alongside Campus Solutions. You can do that on a batch process, or you can do that real time as well. And essentially Kibana, or the Oracle version, which it is now, essentially reports out of that separate server, which means it can show data really quickly, whereas PS queries are quite flat. Using Kibana is a lot more visual. It's a lot nicer for users to use. And I think we've got a demo of that coming up now. Yeah. Sorry, just conscious of time. I think we've got enough time. So again, we put this behind a tile, and it's loading now. So there we go. Right. So it's brought the data up really quickly, a lot easier than running a query. So they can specify, okay, I want to see it via school, and then I want to go to the School of Pharmacy, and then you see all the different submissions for that particular school. So this is great for their committee meetings. And then they say, okay, I want to drill down to only certain modules. They can so that they can see a grid of what sort of elements have changed within the form submissions as well. They've got a link there to also go and view a form if needs be, and we'll show that in a second. And we've got a breakdown of every single change within all the submissions from the form as well, and they can export that to Excel as well. Okay, so the theory is they go into their committees, they click on that link, and then, if this worked correctly, it would open up the form directly, and then they can go and approve or reject or recycle, for example. And then once they've approved it, using real-time indexing, it will fall away from that Kibana report. So this is the final level of approval, which is Leslie's in theory now. Okay. And to prove this works, the CI that we configured, I think I went to the course catalog now just to show you the update it did, which is instant off the back of completing the form. There's no batch processes that need to run or anything like that. Once it's approved, the CI will be triggered and it will update the relevant record. And a CI can be triggered at any stage of the approval process if required. At this one, it was only on final approval from Leslie's team. And there you go, it's updated the description and the course log title. So yeah, that's the end of the demo.
So just to add on the form, some bits that we didn't say, there is a really helpful toggle at the top of the form. So where you could see that there was highlighted that something had been changed, there's a toggle at the top that if somebody pressed, they could see what it was before. So they didn't have to go and try and look what it was. They could actually switch between the views to see what it was and what it is. We also added at the top of a form a button to say that there's no changes required this year. And if somebody clicked that, they didn't have to go through all of the form. It took them straight to the end of the form. And likewise, there was a toggle at the top that said if the program was not running next year, if they press that, it took them to the end of the form. On that very last page, we also incorporated reasons why changes were being made. As a university, we've never collated that information, and we didn't know why people were making changes. So we added some ideas as to what we thought. It was interesting. A lot of people said because we were made to, which was the first round that we got as a response. Just wanted to take you back to this. So the benefits of this form, I mean, I honestly can't rave about it enough. I am probably its biggest supporter. It has been revolutionary and it's been amazing to work with and to see how it has changed how we work. As I said, it's not changing the process, it's just changing how we collate that information. It absolutely simplifies the capturing and checking of curriculum changes. Essentially, academics are doing this themselves. They are going into their module and they are making their own changes with their keyboard. There's no interpretation of data. Nobody's having to type that for them. And as a result of that, they don't need to go in and check because they know that they've typed it in, nobody else has. So what they've typed in will be correct. We've been able to create management reports around it, the one that Paul showed. We've also been able to provide schools and faculties with a download of absolutely everything that they entered. So they've got that record, which they've never had really before because it's been on scrap pieces of paper, and it's massively saved us time. So just to take you back to that first table that we had originally in our old process with the Word documents, it used to take 27 point something full-time equivalents. With this, it's now only taking us 10.85. So we've saved 17 people a year by doing this process. It really is amazing. And we've had some great feedback, which I'll just leave on there. You can have a look. People were very against it to start with because it was yet another way to do something and it's not going to work. But actually, having gone through the process, yes, there are issues that we need to address and we can refine, but the feedback has been really, really, really positive. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Leslie, Paul. An amazing presentation, very comprehensive. Let's wait a couple of minutes if there's any questions, please, in the chat. I have a couple of my own. I don't know if you can shoot them. The first one is, how has a new process impacted academic staff engagement and accountability during the curriculum review? I can imagine as feedback has been very positive, it has impacted engagement and also the accountability. There's no more, oh, I didn't see it, or the form didn't capture it, or whatnot. So can you speak about that point?
So yeah, I mean, it's been a massive task this year. As I say, we do this every year. We ask academics to check their curriculum. They clearly haven't, and faculties, they've always supposed to have, schools approved it, faculties approved it. They haven't, but because this form has presented the data to them, literally line by line for every module, schools and faculties have gone through it, and it's been huge. But actually, the feedback we've had in terms of the ability for them to be able to get their data correct, to be able to see what's wrong. So where we're over assessing people, that's been addressed. Where there are way too many learning outcomes for a module, that's been able to be addressed because they've actually seen it, whereas looking at a Word document, it hasn't. We allow late changes. We've had way too many late changes. As a result of the GTE forms, we've had huge buy-in from the faculties that if you didn't engage with the form, don't even consider putting a late change through. So it really is, and because we were able to provide reports all the way through the updating cycle to say, these are the forms that haven't been started, these are stuck at this stage, it's really shone a light on the areas where people haven't engaged, and it's made people more engaged with it. So yeah, I am the biggest fan, genuinely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Let me see if there are any other questions in the system.
Should be worth adding as well that
yes,
I think this added to them, like when we formed ESIT a few years ago, people weren't a massive fan of Campus Solutions and looking at alternative systems for different processes. Since we've got GT and this curriculum form, I think has really added to the change of narrative. And when we delivered this, like the requests for different forms has gone through the roof now that we struggle to keep up with demand. So now everyone wants to start building stuff in Campus Solutions again, which is really, really good. And I think it helps us and it helps the university save money, and it drives through efficiency as well. So yeah, it was a really good project, and I think the benefits are ongoing.
That is wonderful. Wonderful to hear. And I actually was thinking at the beginning of the presentation that there was also a change in mindset where you approach the project as first design principles. I can imagine that was also kind of a change of approach to IT projects within the university itself.
So every form that we build, we follow the sort of design methodology that we talked about within this presentation. Now we follow a sort of like co-design, co-build sort of methodology, and we find that works so well with the GTE framework, and it really brings our users along that journey with us, and it just gets buy-in. And I can't speak more fondly of that sort of method. And that's how we work in ESIT, and it's how we'll continue to work because it works. And our customer base really like it because it values them, I think, because it, as I said, it's not just speak to them for a couple of hours, write a spec, send that spec off to someone, they get something that they've never seen before and it looks awful, nothing like they wanted. But using this new method and the help with the framework is just a different way to do things, and it's really beneficial.
Perfect. That sounds great. I think our folks from Gideon Taylor have some couple of questions in the chat box.
Yeah. Do you want me to
yes,
read those off, Rodrigo?
That would be great.
So you bet. One of the questions is, what sort of other forms are people requesting?
Right. So we've done an expenses form, a leave form. So when a student wants to go on leave of absence, that sort of thing, with different sorts of forms for that. We've replaced our graduation self-service with GTE forms. So our China campus, they did all their graduation on registering for graduation on emails and Excel spreadsheets. We leveraged with GTE to deliver a self-service for that, and this was the first time they did graduation within Campus Solutions. Before that, it wasn't really trusted. So we are currently building a disability request form where an applicant or a student needs to inform the university they've got a disability or need some accommodation and that sort for their learning. Once we've done that, and we effectively could start to replace our PeopleSoft CRM system, which adds more saving. We've done more, and we've recently gone live with the PGR supervision enhanced form, which enables supervisors to interact with their PGR students, and they can capture their monthly meetings. Once we add another form around the PGR sort of process for that, I think it's a year annual review. We've effectively could retire another system on top of that. Anna, I know if you can speak, am I missing any? I'm sure I am.
Student status letters have been requested. Council tax exemption.
Yeah, the student status letter is a really good one. Yeah, so that one's where currently the students have to request a council tax or a status letter to get like council tax exemption so they don't get charged, or they needed a student status letter to prove they're a student. So currently they have to request that via something like the online store. They fill in a form on there. Then it could take 2 weeks for them to get their letters. But we're currently working on doing that within GT so that once they submit the request, they get those letters instantly. So it's from a 2-week turnaround to minutes, essentially. But yeah.
And Paul, are you using BI Publisher with that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
For that, yeah.
Fantastic.
We're also going to Malaysia as well to train their team up how to build GT forms because they've got a lot of forms there. So yeah, the demand is really high.
That's fantastic. There are a couple of other questions in the queue, and I know that we're coming up against time. How does the form cover new course proposals, repositioning, or removal from curriculum?
So at the moment, this is just for modules. So this is module changes. When we've tweaked it this year, we said for next year, we're going to look to create a program change form as well as new module. The current module form does remove modules from the catalogue or from campus. So yes, so hopefully moving on from that, we will cover all of those. We're not there yet.
Do you envision that being part of the same form, Leslie, or will those be different forms?
I think there'll be different forms, but it'll all be part of the same process. It'll just streamline it so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Are there certain campus solutions frameworks that are prerequisites for the forms? For example, approval or notifications frameworks. If you'd like, I can go ahead and field that. Unless you've got comments, Paul. Okay. And then you can add on if you want. There are not. GT eForms as a people tools based bolt-on incorporates all those things. It's got its own workflow overlay that uses the approval workflow engine or approval framework inside PeopleSoft, but it makes it configurable. So it's a lot easier for business analysts to define what those workflow processes, what the approval process is going to look like. With regards to notifications, it has its own notifications framework inside GT eForms to be able to configure who receives email notifications, when those are received, under what conditions, things like that. You can notify people both who are part of the approval process, as well as people who are outside of the approval process that might just need to be notified that this particular task or action has been initiated or executed. So yeah, and they do, since it is part of PeopleSoft, it does, so your eForms do show up in the approval tile using approval framework, and you are also getting the advantage of alerts and notifications for GT eForms inside PeopleSoft. So it does take advantage of those frameworks, although it doesn't necessarily require them.
Thank you very much. I think that's for today's time. I really want to thank you, University of Nottingham, Leslie, Paul. You've been amazing presenters. Thank you very much, Scott. And to all the participants, remember you'll get a link on your emails. And you can join us at Gideon Taylor's on our website and follow us on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and see you next time.